I want to open your mind up to a different outlook on the world, and that comes through the form of the hero's journey. You might have heard of the hero's journey before, and you might have not. Either way, I encourage you to hear it like it's the first time right now. Because what I want to present is the outline of the hero's journey, and then as I go forward in episodes to follow, I'd like to make 12 episodes that follow up, focusing on each of the stages of the hero's journey. Now, the hero's journey was coined in Joseph Campbell's 1949 book, The Hero with a Thousand Faces. In The Hero with a Thousand Faces, he outlined it in 17 steps. That red pen's really thick, but we'll grind. He outlined it in 17 steps, and there's a number that you don't see here. This is because we've used the 12-step journey by Christian Vogler maybe, who worked in the movie industry, the storytelling industry, and was inspired by Campbell's 17 steps and constructed them into 12. The 12 steps being the ordinary world, a call to adventure, the refusal of the call, meeting the mentor, crossing the first threshold, tests, allies, enemies, approach to the innermost cave, the supreme ordeal, seizing the sword, the road back, resurrection, and returning with the elixir. And you might be like, that's just a lot of words. And who is even on a hero's journey? And what is a hero's journey? Well, you're on a hero's journey. I'm on a hero's journey. We're all on our own individual hero's journey. And I got exposed to Campbell through a PBS recording that he had done back in the day. I believe it was PBS, with Bill Moyers. It was an interview series on mythology. Joseph Campbell was very well versed in mythology, as an expert in mythology. That's what he dedicated his life to. And he came into the awareness that in all of these myths, we tell ourselves it's a singular hero told in the story of 1,000 faces, whether that be Jesus or the Buddha. The hero with 1,000 faces. Any which way you would like to look. And thus, each of us are living our own hero's journey. It is an internal experience of what we perceive to be externally occurring around us. And this is not to say that there's a singular hero's journey, like the overarching story of your life is a hero's journey, yes. You could put it all under the umbrella of life. And yet you could, write your life in each of these 12 steps, or you could see that there are numerous hero's journeys going on within your own life right now. Your relationship to your parents, your relationship to yourself, your relationship to your siblings, your relationship to maybe a significant other, your relationship to your friends, your job, your passions, your desires, your pursuits. They all take on a course of their hero's journey, but where are they occurring? This is the grand realization from Campbell. Where are they occurring? They're only occurring inside. Thus, the story that we tell ourselves, the story that you tell yourself, is reality. Perception is reality, as some will say. And it is no doubt true. And you can just take a moment to think about right now. Think about your job. Think about the profession. Maybe you're in school. Think about where you're at in school. And you might look at these 12 steps and think about, where am I in my journey of work, in my journey of school? Where am I existing in these steps. Because the journey, the mysticism of the journey is what brings a heightened taste, a heightened sense to life. It's what gives meaning. It's the stories that we associate with experiences. It's the stories that we create from experiences. And much of my book, which is coming out in June of 2026, An Inevitable Becoming, I actually have the first copy right here. Not for resale though. This is the author's copy. We got to edit it through one more time. I found some, you can type and type and type and they're still just typos. But back to more serious matters. Much of my book was inspired by listening to Campbell talk about the mysticism of life, the ritual of life, the rituals that we partake in life. It's important to understand that you will only begin to grasp the awareness or the realization of the hero's journey when you decide to stop looking externally for the journey itself, because it's all taking place right now. You can think about the journey of me making videos, right? Of me making this video and putting it out, and the recording, where am I? The ordinary world, call to adventure, refusal of the call. I think I'm somewhere in the call to adventure. The ordinary world, maybe I'm somewhere in these beginning stages. And we don't go looking for the journey to take place. It always comes to us. I can't go looking for a call to refuse. Inevitably, there will be one that I refuse, and then I'll be able to look back on it in retrospect and begin to see, that's where I refused the call. Yes, okay. Much of Inevitable Becoming in the first part of the book that I talk about is my experience of the hero's journey really over the past 15 months. Yeah, 15 months, 16 months, 17 months. But really, as I spent the last year and a half outside of the United States, all around the world, you start to understand that all these places we go, all these things that we do, all these material items that we try to possess, none of them are the journey themselves. The journey is always internal. However, traveling and experiencing some of those things might change the lens with which I see the world through, and that might thus lead me into an experience of the hero's journey. Because if we think that life is happening to you, life is happening to me, put a little sad face and a tear. Because that's what it is. That's what you feel bad about. Life's happening to me. The hero's journey lights up the idea that no, life is happening for me. See how much happier he is? I don't know if the eyebrows were right. Maybe they need a little. But life is happening for me. I'm able to go out in the world and see and start to tell this story, this internal story about what is occurring each day has its own hero's journey. Because as you can see, you return to the place that you began with the elixir of what you've uncovered, the insights that you've had out in the world. And that could be I wake up in the ordinary world in my bed at whatever time in the morning, and I go to bed as I return with the elixir of the day and fall asleep. And this dream state, thus, to take it just a little deeper, this dream state, is where we it's this blending of my returning with the elixir back into the ordinary world every single day. Now you have larger ones that take months, years, and of course, your entire life. So what are we left with? We're left with the opportunity to pay attention to your dreams and start to see what way are they guiding me in my life. Because that might just be the thing that blends its hand into how you wake up in the ordinary world tomorrow. And that's on a very, very microscopic level of as we look at your day. That's all we have, is right now you're watching this video. You might take this video as a call to adventure, a call to see the adventure of life. And you very well might sit here and say, this guy's crazy. What's he talking about? I'd rather just do whatever it is that I was doing before, but somehow I got on this video and now I'm listening to this guy talk in his room. I'm in my living room, but you get it's in a room, right? And I'm just going to refuse the call. But then maybe you meet someone. Maybe you meet someone a year later and they start talking about the same essence, the same thing, or something that relieves pressure from the unconscious and starts to say, hey, have you ever heard about a hero's journey before? Maybe that's the mentor. Could be. I don't know. I'm just throwing out a hypothetical situation. I don't know. I've never met a mentor that I've looked for. Mentors have always shown themselves to me when I least expect it. Then we have this crossing of the first threshold. Where do I trust the mentor? Do I go with the mentor? Do I allow this mentor to see what is inside of me, far greater than I can see right now, and follow them across this first threshold, which is why I've drawn this line in this beautiful circle that I've constructed. After we cross the first threshold, we enter this secondary world where there's tests, allies, and enemies. Where allies and enemies might turn into tests. Enemies might turn into allies. Tests might turn into enemies. Tests might turn into allies. It is all how you create the story in your mind as you approach to the innermost cave, to the thing that you are most afraid of, to the essence of this entire ordeal, because it brings you into the supreme ordeal. And in the supreme ordeal, you walk away seizing the sword. Who knows what that sword is but you? And you only know in retrospect when you look back. But as you begin the road back to where you first began, you now have the sword in your hands. The sword that has been earned through the endurance of all of these tests. And you come back to this resurrection point. This point where you no longer are just holding the sword. You're able to wield, I think, the sword. I think you're wielding the sword. You're able to wield the sword. This resurrection point is a matter of integrating the entire experience into who you are, into your way of being. And thus you come back, you return to the place you began, back in this ordinary world with the elixir that you never even know you needed, that other people don't know they need, but that you provide through your way of being. And again, this, I cut this out. Again and again, it'll run its course over and over, over and over. And do you sit and have the awareness necessary to understand that life is happening for me. This journey is taking place for me to learn something. I don't know, but that's where you're going to seize a sword. And that's where this ordeal is going to draw you into the place, the innermost cave that you least want to go to. That is the purpose of meeting the mentor, of crossing this first threshold, of the test allies and enemies that are on the way to the innermost cave. And you'll notice that the essence of the story of your hero's journey, it very rarely takes place in this chronological order. So often you'll notice that it is a bouncing between, yet you're able to see that you always return with the elixir. You might meet the mentor, leave the mentor, come all the way down to test allies and enemies, and need that mentor again. And it's all part of the story, rather. Maybe the mentor stays with you for the entire journey. Maybe the mentor is just momentary. However, where do you experience the mentor? It's internally. It's always internally. So I want to open your eyes and open your awareness into the idea of the hero's journey, into this possibility that you might be on your own hero's journey right now. And what I'm going to do as we go forward is I'm going to expand on the ordinary world, the call to adventure, the refusal of the call, meeting the mentor, crossing the first threshold, test allies and enemies, and approach the innermost cave, the supreme ordeal, seizing the sword, the road back, resurrection, and returning with the elixir individually to really highlight the qualities of each that I've experienced within my own life, what I see each of these as. And maybe at the very end, we'll make a grand video of the entire thing. So we could use this right now, this first episode right here of the hero's journey as somewhere in the ordinary world. Actually, it could even be somewhere in this dream state where we're thinking of what we're going to do, how we're going to be, what is going to be made next. And that might just be explaining the ordinary world in the next episode.